Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole Lore and Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. This is a topic that I have seen no one talk about. This is something that's just conveniently brushed aside when it comes to the narrative. Something that I have always mocked and made fun of, like Game Pass, right? The narrative among the industry is that Game Pass is a huge value. It's one of the best online services there is. Xbox really knocked it out of the park. They are the best, right? And of course, that's not true. I've talked about this numerous times, but now we've seen them reach a new low. We have seen one of my predictions regarding the service come true, and that is a subtle price hike, right? They have removed the $1 sign-on bonus for Xbox Game Pass, or bonus, the $1 discount signing on to Xbox Game Pass. So for those of you who don't know, initially, in order to sell Game Pass to people to get as many subscribers as possible, Microsoft allowed you to sign up for $1 for that first month, and then would charge you for $15 every month afterward, right? That was their service, right? You would be able to sign on for a single dollar and get to play all their games, get to experience everything. I get to experience the service and really get a taste for it, and then you would hypothetically stay subscribed. So when I subscribed, I basically went through everything I wanted to play, did an elaborate review on the service, concluded it was shit, and then moved on with my life. I unsubbed, right? But now you can't do that. Now you have to pay the full $15. Now you have to now you can't exploit the system, because I've heard a lot of people were exploiting it. I've heard people say that they would simply unsub from the service every month or so, and then sign back for another dollar and save $15 every month, right? I've seen people say that. I've seen people talk about what a great value it is for first time Xbox owners is to just get Game Pass and get to play all these games. But if you're like me, you'll realize that these games are on sale so much that it's actually just cheaper to just buy the ones you want, right? It really is just cheaper to just buy the games you're going to play and just stick with those, rather than sticking to a subscription service like this. And second of all, and I mentioned this as well, the price is going to go up. Microsoft is taking massive losses on Game Pass, trying to sell it to its consumer base. And now that it has a steady subscriber base, I think it is going to start hiking prices, much like Netflix does, much like all these services do. Microsoft is paying a ton of money to developers, to publishers, anyone who'll take it to put their games on Game Pass. And it tanks indie game sales, it tanks sales in general, but they get a payout from Microsoft for doing it. So it's actually worth their money, worth their while in the short term, right? So Microsoft is throwing all this money, trying to make this service successful, and it's just not going to work. It just feels as they increase the prices, as it reaches the point where you could buy a game for the price, buy a new game for the prices they're asking you to charge every month. I do think that people are going to sour on the service. They are going to start questioning it, and if they are going to start falling off, I can tell you from experience that I myself spent a long period of time not playing Game Pass, and it just made me annoyed seeing that I was charged every month for a service that I wasn't really using all that much, right? Game Pass just doesn't have enough value to keep you invested. Maybe if they had every game ever in Xbox's history fully playable in the service, but they don't. They have a couple of games, but a couple 100 or so, but not a lot of good ones, right? They have a handful of them, but Xbox never had a really solid library, right? Maybe it's cool going back through the Xbox store and finding some stuff that hasn't been re-released yet, but when you get right down to it, there's not a whole lot of things like that. Alice is great, I like that, but I'm sure I could have just bought it. Ninja Gaiden's great, but I bought that. Dead or Alive is great. It's the only game I play on Xbox these days. I bought all four of them. All four of them. There's no purpose to Game Pass existing, right? It seems just a technique to get people to try really terrible games like Sea of Thieves and bolster player numbers for terrible MMOs that nobody really cares about. it just seems like I don't know, like a Ponzi scheme, honestly. Like, bolster those numbers, like, oh, look at all these players we have for these games. But, like, a lot of them, I was shocked at just the sheer amount of people who did not play Yakuza on Xbox. Like, I would boot the game up, check the trophies, and I would see that, like, 0.01 people finished chapter 1. Or like something like that. Like so many people like played Yakuza, realized it wasn't a GTA game like clone, and then just closed out. Like that's the Xbox audience, right? They just don't appreciate games like that. You know, Persona 5, I'm sure, is the same way. Like, I can't see that game doing successful on the service. Like, and to me, I think it's very self-evident that like Xbox Game Pass is going to peter out because of the price hikes, because of what they're doing, because of like the mistakes they've made. I've always maintained that the superior gaming service is Nintendo Switch Online, because instead of focusing on like producing modern games through a instead of producing a what was I doing? Uh, Instead of like producing a service where you play new games as they come out through a subscription model, like they put old games that aren't available on their online store, right? Nintendo's model is superior because they're getting like long-term licenses for these games that they're going to renew constantly. They're putting new games on there all the time, and they're releasing them alongside new games, right? That you can buy like ordinary products, so they don't like cannibalize new game sales, right? Xbox, I think, has really underestimated the value of like promoting their older games first. You know, I think if they really put their best foot forward and like really tried selling like Dead or Alive as like a classic Xbox IP, like, you know, pushing that as a forefront of Game Pass, like, yeah, maybe they would have had a little bit more success with it, but they didn't. You know, like Xbox just does not have the history or the legacy or the high quality IPs to even compete with Nintendo in this respect. So like Microsoft has just been destroyed by Nintendo really without even trying. And I don't see a lot of people admitting it. In fact, I'm seeing a lot of people say the opposite. But Game Pass is an abject failure, right? Like, it's just not going to work out. Phil Spencer is like throwing money into a furnace, trying to get the Xbox brand to survive the incoming like console collapse, where Xbox and PlayStation will no longer be viable. But it's just not going to work, honestly. PlayStation's alternative is to like release games on PC, but that's also not working. So I think in the next 10 years or so, we're going to see like Xbox and PlayStation radically become less popular. I would argue it's happening already, but there's just no reason to continue supporting these consoles. They've always been terrible. They've always been trash. But like more and more people are starting to wake up to that fact. And the failure that is Xbox Game Pass is a really good example as to why.